these guys are processing transactions and allowing anyone to participate. Again, no one is required to use Bitcoin, right? No one can stop Bitcoin. Anyone can participate in Bitcoin. This is a common theme around decentralized autonomous organizations. As Bitcoin, as digital currencies have evolved, almost every digital currency is a DAO, I should say. They have gotten more complicated and more complicated. One of the really cool DAOs is Dash. Excuse me, it's a digital currency. And Dash is an anonymous digital currency, so it's very easy to hide who is sending money from here to there. So, but in Dash, every time there's a block reward, 10% of the money that is generally used to create inflation goes to this fund where people get to vote on how that money is spent to support the network. And so this group will use those funds to hire somebody to create YouTube videos. There's Amanda B. Johnson works for a DAO to spread the word about Dash, for instance. And now in the last 8 months, my team was working on what we call the DAO. The DAO is the first really advanced type of DAO that was built on the Ethereum blockchain. And in this DAO, it's a lot more broad. It has a lot more capabilities than normal digital currencies. It really allows people with money and a desire to change the world to connect directly to the people with the plan and the time to implement that plan to change the world. And there's nothing between the two groups except computer code. No lawyers, no bankers, no accountants. Everything is outsourced to the blockchain in a completely transparent way. So when these DAOs actually start to take off and they start replacing normal services, it's very corruption resistant. It's going to be very hard to secretly send money somewhere or another because all the money is transparently tracked. You can't trick that. If somebody sends money to an address, you say, hey, who the hell is that? Why did he get that money? And the answer is going to need to come. Otherwise, you could opt out. You don't have to be a part of that organization anymore. In fact, I'm really excited to talk about this because in the last couple of years, almost all of the largest crowdfunded projects have been digital currency based. In the top 10, I believe the top, 5 of them are all related to digital currencies. They're all DAOs. So this is a huge way to actually grassroots start funding a project that you may want to create. So instead of just going into what my project was, I really want to know what projects you guys have. Does anyone have an issue, a problem they want to solve that they want to, organize globally or locally around solving this problem? So, yeah? He's got a mic.
Human trafficking.
Okay, human trafficking. That is a great one. Wow, thank you. Okay, so let's say that, what's your name? Joel? Joel. Oh, Joel. Okay. So let's say that Joel is really inspired to create this DAO around to solve the problems and issues around human trafficking. So he's going to go on Reddit and he's going to say, "Hey guys, who wants to be a part of this? I need help recreating this smart contract that from another successful DAO that already exists." For instance, let me back up for a second and let me just talk about when we were creating our DAO. People sent digital currency to the smart contract that was effectively our DAO. They just sent money to our little digital safe, right? And we created an open source code that anyone could copy, paste. They'd make a couple of phone calls to the entities that converted fiat money into digital currencies, the same entities we used, and it would be plug and play, just like half the camps out there, right? You just turnkey solution. And then, so they could take our code, make a website around it, and money can flow their way. And then we have our actual contract. And our contract is extremely well annotated because we wanted people to understand it. And we have a whole wiki explaining every line of code. And the code is extremely simple to read. It was written specially for that. And so they could use the code, change a couple numbers, change what they want, and then use that, right? And then we also have the user interface that allows people to interact with the code. And the same thing. Our website was vote.daohub.org. And if you just put / and then whatever the address to your DAO is, you would have that website automatically generated for you. So for human trafficking, he would just go on Reddit and say, hey guys, I really want to turn the DAO 1.1 into my human trafficking DAO. And he would gather support, create a basic team that would volunteer that are inspired to help this cause. And they would generate all the code and fix things up. And then when they're ready to launch, they would put it out there, and just all they have to do is tell people it exists. Go to this website, get as many people who are inspired around human trafficking as possible to go to this website. And that all of those funds, all the people who are excited to make a change in the world of human trafficking would donate their money there, and in return, they would get voting tokens. They get tokens that allow them to participate in the decision-making process of the organization. And as I said before, the people who put in more money get more tokens. $1, 1 token kind of a thing. You could have the creation phase go forever, and in this case, I would recommend that. So more people could contribute money as it goes on. You could do this computer code is completely Turing complete, which means you can do anything. You can make the price go down or go up as time goes on. It doesn't matter. And the DAO itself could even vote on those decisions to upgrade their own contract to change those things around. So let's just say that the creation phase is a short period of time, or just a discrete period of time, and then they go into actually creating projects. So anybody in the world could submit a project. It could be a project to do human trafficking globally, to have a website that tracks all the problems in the world, or it could be, hey, there's a lot of human trafficking in Bangkok. I live in Bangkok. We have this organization. I would really like support here, and everyone would get to vote on whether or not these projects deserve funds. Now, one interesting thing about voting in the blockchain world is you can do a lot of cool shit, okay? I don't know how many of you have heard of liquid democracy. Has anyone heard of liquid democracy? Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3. So liquid democracy, 4, 5, okay. Liquid democracy is the idea of a representative democracy, but on a moment-by-moment basis. So if you have voting tokens, you could send those to 5 people that you believe have the same idea as you. And you don't have to look at every project. Human trafficking is a huge issue. There's going to be a lot of proposals. This is almost like a grant organization, right? That funds projects in this space. So there's going to be a lot of people that want to work on this. This is a very inspiring project. So when there's so many proposals, you guys all have day jobs. You can't do that, Some people can, though. Some people that are really inspired, they're going to be delegates. And you can send your voting tokens to them, and in return get delegated voting tokens. And with those tokens, at a moment's notice, you can get your tokens back. So if there is a proposal that you're really excited about, and you want all of your tokens back, in a second you can get them back. So this is like turning representative democracy on its head. In fact, on a side note, there is a project in the Bay Area where they're trying to have a party that is Liquid Democracy Party, or something like that. And they're hacking the system right now to put up a real live politician that only makes decisions based off of liquid democracy. So this is a real thing, and it's really cool, and it's happening. But anyway, it happened in our DAO, in the DAO that we were working on. Somebody came up with it in 30 days. They came up with that governance system. Really cool. So if you send, if the delegates are looking at all of these proposals, and they say, yeah, this proposal is awesome, this proposal is awesome, we're going to vote for it, and it's going to get money. So the DAO is now sending money to fund this proposal. Now, the issue here, or the really cool, another cool thing, is that the money doesn't just go to a person's bank account. The money actually goes to another smart contract. So that smart contract has rules on when the money will be distributed. So if the person has a really good idea, but has very low reputation, you can make a smart contract that says, well, we're gonna, well, oh, by the way, it's the person who has to make the smart contract is the contractor, the person who is forming the proposal. The onus is on them to get people to know about their proposal, to get people to vote for their proposal, and to create the smart contract around it. So there might even be the first proposal for some of these DAOs would be to pay people to create, to pay people to create these smart contracts. So you create a smart contract, and that, since you have a low reputation, the first thing is you gotta, to fund your project, let's say it's in Bangkok, you want to start a private investigating unit that goes like renegade to hunt down human traffickers and find who they are and alert the authorities. So the first thing you get is just $200 to start the thing, you know, and to build reputation. But your project is so awesome, they actually sent $100,000 your way, but it's going to be on a little scale, so that if you are a fraudster, then at any time the DAO can actually fire you and get that money back. So it's very low risk. It can be very low risk. But instead, if like someone like Elon Musk is like, listen, I have this new technology that will solve human trafficking, you know, give me lots of money, you can probably trust Elon Musk. He has a reputation. So then you're going to front load him, no problem. All of these things, this allows so much flexibility around DAOs. This is how it goes. And I'm really excited. Our project, unfortunately, was not a success. It ended up getting hacked, and we raised $150 million to create a universal sharing network to kind of allow people to not have to own things, but instead just give a create a decentralized access-based economy, which I can talk about later if you guys want, but it's not the topic of this conversation. But it's a really cool idea. We got a lot of support. Raised $150 million, and then a hacker was actually able to find a bug in the code. The programming language is only 8 months old, and the programming language was poorly structured, and they were able to take 50 million out and put it in another place. We had time-based fail-safes, and we were eventually able to hack the hacker, get the money back, and give everyone their funds back. And even despite this hack, no one lost a single dime that participated in our project. So DAOs and the regulation around these things is not too much of a problem. I believe that we can self-regulate around these issues, as you know, even in a major hack like this, nobody lost money. So this is a very exciting topic, and I want to leave it open for questions and answers if anyone has any. Yeah. Oh wait, he was closer to the mic.
Hey, so a principle here is decommodification. I hear DAO, I hear a brand, I hear you talking about money, I hear you about, why are you talking about this here, right? I mean, in a sense of, I don't believe in DAOs at all. I think it's a totally cool idea, but the idea you're proselytizing something which has been hacked, and yours is not the only hack, right? There's the $83 million one. It seems like something which requires a lot of time as opposed to words to figure out if it works and how it works, or if it's just, you know, another way, I mean, Bitcoin is hardly a success unless you look at all the Russian miners, you know, the Russian mafia that are mining. So, 7 years, that's great. So there are lots of systems that have not had downtime for 7 years. That's wonderful, right? So what? So, I mean, so why here? Why should we hear about DAOs here when there's decommodification?
I'm bringing it here because I know there are a lot of people that want to change the world here. And this allows people to connect directly to get people with the money. I understand that the decommodification thing, but we do live in that default world occasionally. And a lot of the problems that need to be solved require funds. And there's a lot of people that have tried to start eco-villages and start little communities. And one of the major issues around starting these communities is reaching consensus amongst each other. And a DAO allows that consensus to be cryptographically provable. And that is why I wanted to bring it here. And it doesn't have to be about money. If you guys wanted to start a commune where there is no money, you can still use the structure of a DAO. But it is in the digital currency space. So yes, it does have a lot to do with about money. He had a question right here.
You guys can often narrow it down to it being a problem with a rigged economy and a corrupt system of governance. If we can fix those two things, we can probably fix most of the problems in the world, and that's what the blockchain can bring. So I'm very glad that you were speaking about that here. I had a question about the DAO hack, which you said it was great, everybody got their money back and everything. At the same time, you brought up a lot of interesting issues, philosophical issues about what is a DAO, because originally when the DAO was set up, it was meant to function as, well, the terms of the contract are the code, right? So code is law, essentially.
Yeah.
And then when the hack happened, it wasn't really a hack, right? It was actually one of the terms of the contract was that this guy could take all that money out, and he found out a way to do it. And when the community said, oh, we're going to fork and make sure he can't use that money anymore, there was actually a funny post on Reddit where he was like, well, actually, I'm going to sue you guys, because he said that the terms of the contract are the law, and one of the terms of the contract says that I can take this money, so you can't take my money away from me, right? So anyways, he brought up a lot of interesting moral questions about it, and there was a fork. Part of the Ethereum split, right? Ethereum Classic remain for those that think that COD should be low, and that the whole purpose of a DAO and of the blockchain is that there shouldn't be one governing body that can decide to just completely make it irrelevant and move to a new blockchain, while there was another group of people in the ETC, the other Ethereum, that decided to move in that direction and say, no, we can come to a consensus as a group and change the laws of the DAO. I'm just wondering, what have you learned from that you think is important for the future of the DAOs?
Yeah, well, a lot of people believe immutability is guaranteed on the blockchain, and that's just not true. The blockchain I'm going to keep this short because this isn't really about DAOs and it's a little technical, but cryptocurrencies are they're run by economic consensus, and the economic consensus of the Ethereum network was that this DAO, the hack, needed to be fixed for the Ethereum network to continue on economically more successful. And one of the amazing things that happened is immutability was actually determined. I would say this fork really showed that immutability is not guaranteed on the blockchain. What is guaranteed on the blockchain, just as any DAO, that economic consensus is what drives blockchain. So, but the really cool thing is that two currencies were created. Almost a parallel universe was generated out of this, because some people disagreed with the choice to take the hackers' money. A lot of people disagreed with that, actually. They're mostly Bitcoin maximalists that hate Ethereum, as Ethereum is the second largest currency and the biggest competitor to Bitcoin. So the Bitcoiners felt it was in their best interest to support this other competing chain. But when you make a change in a blockchain like a hard fork, that is, as always, opt in or opt out. And so even though in the Ethereum network, pretty much everyone agreed, there was a strong consensus that we should steal the money back from the hacker, right? It was theft, why not? But there was a minority, a tiny minority, that disagreed. And they now have another currency, because this is opt-in, opt-out. They did not have to upgrade their client and actually follow that. They chose to stick with the old currency where the hacker has the money, and that currency exists. This is completely consent-based infrastructure, and it's really powerful. Where's the mic guy?
I can just shout it.
Yeah, shout it out.
Was it theft or was it?
is what the hacker did, would you call it theft or would you call it part of the terms of the contract?
Well, theft is not always... Okay, so a lot of the terms of the contract were written in a decentralized fashion. These are just bloggers writing stuff, right? So the real terms of the contract were the code. And in the code, there was a bug, and the guy was able to write a really crazy smart contract, send DAO tokens to it, and then actually steal money that was held in trust of other people. So because that money wasn't his, you know, and he may have followed the legal terms of the contract, but even in the legal world, if the legal terms are not what people believe to be the true spirit of the contract, it would be considered theft and illegal.
If this was dollars, would he have gone to jail or would he have gotten his money?
Well, he still might go to jail. I believe if it were dollars, he would go to jail for sure.
I was just wondering if he exploited your weakness, how was that theft? If he used your criteria and he just was smarter than you guys were, why did he steal it?
Well, it's not because it's because the money wasn't his. The money was held in trust of other people. Other people believe that. I mean, I don't really want. I could talk about the hack for hours, and after this, if anyone wants to talk about the hack more, we can go over there and we can have a great debate. It'll be a lot of fun. I love talking about this. I live this. This is like my last 3 months of my life. I really want to focus more on changing the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is the difference between the greed, making the money through the DAO, or changing the world. How, like people respond because they respond to issue and they want to contribute, to change it, to find a solution, to find something because it communicates with their soul. And then somebody plugging in because they want to make money. So how do you differentiate the motivations?
You don't need to differentiate the motivations. The fact is, DAOs can replace corporations, they can replace nonprofits, they can replace charities, they can replace anything that is usually structured in a legal contract you can use for a DAO. I believe that it's a lot easier to use them for nonprofits. Generating profits is a little bit more difficult, and my company is actually focusing on working with a few other people that want to create nonprofits, and that's going to be our focus. But because when you start creating a for-profit business, the code gets really complicated, and we're just not there yet. So for now, I think nonprofits are going to be the way to go. And in the end, anyone can create this computer code to do anything they want. And if they want to create a very greedy, let's say like a Silk Road 3.0 type of situation with a DAO, then they can, and there's nothing to stop them from doing that. But I think that the ones that get really popular are the ones that are going to end homelessness or something like that.
No, actually, if I could just have less than a minute, I'd really like to try to help anybody who might have the mindset that this is like a default world commodity thing. If I could just speak about that for just less than a minute.
Yeah,
probably.
of course, dude. But hold the mic really close to your mouth, like eat it.
Okay, so
Close to your mouth.
this is really kind of about evolution, to be honest.
Close to, yeah, there you go. Put it on your lips.
Okay.
Kiss it. Love it.
This whole thing, it's really about evolution.
There was a 2-week debating period from the proposal to when the vote would end. And if there was less than 20% of the total amount of tokens that voted yes or no in it, then it would not pass. So there was a quorum of 20% requirement. And then it was just majority. If 51% said yes and 49% no, and above 20% voted, then it would pass. And money would be sent to that smart contract. And then the contractor would be able to work on his project. But that could easily be changed to 75% yes and 25% no, and 10% quorum. Those are all just numbers in the contract that the person originating the DAO would be able to create. And everyone who sends money to the DAO would know those factors up front because they're open and transparent on the blockchain.
So I'd actually like to go back just to the consensus thing one more time because it's really interesting. What are your thoughts about bad actors in the system, like censoring parties or states that are less than conducive to this sort of thing? Somebody changing the immutable state of these contracts that are laid out because they have consensus.
So this is a major issue, right? It's in the digital currency space is often called a 51% attack, or if he changes his code to 75%, it'd be called a 75% attack. If someone has 51% of the tokens, they could be a good person and it wouldn't be a big deal. Everyone would be a part of it. But if they decided to, let's say, send all the money to themselves and try to fraud the system, we personally had a group of people that would at least make it known that that was happening. So people had time to opt out. The way we set up our DAO is that it had this function called splitting, so that if there was an attack, anyone, if someone decided, if the human trafficking project raised $150 million, but a human trafficker that was a billionaire, sent 100 of those $1 million to destroy the whole DAO itself, people would be able to split their money into a new DAO. And so if he created a vote that said, send all the money to me, and the group of people that act as an identity oracle and confirm that the smart contract was not some sort of like virus that would screw up the DAO when it was integrated into the code, then if they would raise the red flag and say, hey, this looks questionable, and then people would be able to opt out and split into a new DAO, and that guy would be able to send all of his $100 million to himself. Congratulations, it's his money, he should be able to do that anyway. And the rest of the people that actually went in there with a inspired sense of like, I want to change the world, would be able to have their DAO without that guy involved. So that's how we dealt with the main issue in cryptocurrencies, which is what if somebody has a large percentage of the value.